Hi, everyone. Welcome to this 2020 online edition of the Fantasia International Film Festival. Today, we're really happy to be talking to Noah Hutton, the writer, screenwriter, and editor of LAPSIS. Hi, Noah.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Good.
So thanks for agreeing to this special edition of the festival. Yeah, thank you for bringing the film to us.
I'm just glad we can still do it. I'm glad people can still stream the film and that we can still, engage with people this way. It, of course, is like a heartbreaker that we're not with an audience in a room right now, but
Yeah,
this is not too bad of a substitute.
yeah. I wanted to kick things off. One of the things that really sort of attracted me to the project and to sort of actually discovering you as a filmmaker this year with this film is from what I can tell, you have a background in science and in sort of environmental documentaries and with both Crude Independence and Deep Time. And I was kind of curious to sort of know, how that sort of transition happened from making these films to writing a piece of sort of speculative fiction such as Lapsis, and how did you go about that sort of transition from documentary to fiction?
Yeah, it's something I always wanted to do, but the transition was extreme because a lot of the documentary work I was doing was really like I was just out there with a camera, one man band, carrying the equipment, traveling around, making these films. And the transition to working with a crew of we were upwards of 30 people at any given moment on Lapsis, and a lot of extras in the film, a lot of speaking parts in the film. It was a pretty, for a micro budget indie film, we went for it and created this world out in the forest and tried to push the scale of the story. So just the difference in scale was a lot. But I would say that the on a technical level, the thing that helped me the most was what I do for a living more to like get by while I can make my own work, which is commercial directing and editing. And so that working on those scales over the years prepared me more for narrative filmmaking than maybe the scale of documentary filmmaking. But on a more basic level, just in terms of what these films are about and what they try to say, I think that those films were preparing me for the subject matter of this film, because they're about working class conditions and on the ground, whether it was the oil boom, or in this case, the gig economy. They were trying to tell the story of how people were actually affected on kind of the underbelly of these larger systems. And so that, as the person who was writing the film, I was certainly, that I had a shared interest in the documentary work in exploring that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons the film is so successful in a way is because you bring that background to it, and I think it also sort of really in the writing itself, like it really understands, I think, the language of sort of capitalistic sort of propaganda, or at least the sort of underlying conditions that make our working lives, right? And so how I mean, I'm interested in hearing you talk about sort of how you went about building that world right from the ground up, and maybe what inspired this sort of idea of quantum computing and this idea of the premise of the film.
Yeah, I mean, to start in the very general, the world of this film was inspired by an academic essay, and it was inspired by an essay called "Logic and Fiction" by Patricia Reed, who's a professor, I think, in Canada and in Toronto, and the idea of this essay was just that the financial world has basically created a fiction that we now all live inside of, that we accept as real.
Yeah.
And that speculative trading and high-speed trading and the logic of Wall Street and of capitalism writ large has become a codified truth that we rarely question. It just is the way that the world turns, but it's a highly abstract fiction. If you just stop at any moment and poke at it,
yeah.
Or if you saw what happened, in 2008 when one Jenga piece came out and the whole thing like almost fell over.
Yeah. Or now, really.
or here we are again,
yeah.
right? So
yeah.
I just thought I thought that just treating the speculative fiction that we live inside of as a potential for creating a new speculative fiction of the future, and how something that seems so abstract, actually, I think when you watch this film, it seems like it could be real. But when you actually stop and think about it, it's like, wait a second, this is insane. There's cubes in the forest. There's like cables everywhere. Like, what the hell is going on? But why is it that we somehow feel like this is possible? And so that was a very like pregnant energy for me to create a world that feels possible but is absurd in a certain way.
Right.
To almost like reveal a little bit of the absurdity of the systems we live inside of.
Yeah, for sure. And there's something incredibly relatable about this idea of these things that we recognize as these sort of sharing economy sort of base principles, but sort of taken just to that sort of slightly absurdist sort of edge, of the maybe I'm thinking of the sort of the sharing garage or something like that, right? Which is not that far removed from what we have, but kind of a little absurd. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah. I really enjoyed Dean Imperial's performance in the film, and I think Ray is an interesting character in terms of he's a very unlikely hero, and I've read people write about how in a way he's a great stand-in for the everyman in that sort of a bit of that sort of dumbfoundedness of him, but also that sort of hustling sort of mentality of him. How did you come up with the character?
This was a character that I really just used Dean Imperial, the actor, the human, the man,
yeah,
as a muse to write this character. And so he hasn't acted in any feature films before. He was in one short many years ago, but mostly he's a part of this like New York theater scene called around Naked Angels, which is like a playwrights group in New York City. And I had seen him in a few readings there, and I became friends with him. And so I just sort of like he became my muse to write a character that Dean could embody, and that was Ray. So
right.
I no, but aside from that, I did like separately from Dean or anything. I like the idea in this film of an everyman hero, because if we were in a world of quantum whatever, I wanted the audience to not feel the pressure of having to understand what's going on. I have a problem in some sci-fi that deals with like time and quantum mechanics and stuff, where you feel like you're watching characters who are smarter than you, and you just have to trust that they are having the breakthroughs, and you don't really understand what's going on, but it's just sort of like you're meant to feel amazed. And I wanted to subvert that by having a kind of everyman who you could just sort of relax as the audience and understand that the film isn't about necessarily quantum dynamics. It's about the reverberations and capitalism of quantum dynamics.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, that actually has me thinking about, like, I think the way you handle exposition in the film is quite smart in that sense, where, it all comes from corporate speech. It all comes from sort of in-world sort of copy almost, right? Like this sort of, it's all this sort of Cabler's content that or characters sort of talking through those that serve as the exposition. And I think as a viewer, it makes for a different kind of science fiction experience, as you said, right? Like it's sort of,
Yeah, I hope so. I think that was certainly important to have exposition come through like a almost marketing lens as a viewer.
There's a weirdness that I really enjoy in the film, and that sort of really kicks into high gear once you get into the forest. One of my favorite sequences is this sort of like the fast-paced montage, where there's like, it's underscored by saxophone, and then eventually, you see the sax player in the forest. How did you handle that sort of shift in tone, and more importantly, like, how did you approach this section of the film, which I think is brilliant? I mean, there's so many little details, the insects, for example.
It was scripted pretty close to that, and the idea always was to try to summarize a bit of the world in terms of these different faces that were talking at him in different locations, just big takes on AI and and like the immune system, and just sort of like people who we might have encountered over a stretch of time speaking at him, and to have to almost like build a little climax there in the film, so that you could get a sense of stuff, and then we didn't have to keep peppering the rest of the film with strange encounters. We could
Yeah.
kind of keep the plot moving after that a little bit more. So that was the concept, but like a lot of kismet, lucky stuff happened, you know, along the way. Like we found crazy bugs, which is always fun, you know,
Yeah.
salamanders, whatever, centipedes. The saxophone player is someone I knew from another short I made, and he was able to come up and just like play an amazing solo that worked for it. And you know, these things are lucky, and when you're on limited time and limited budget, you just hope you script something, but you just, you know, you hope for the best.
Yeah. 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 How?
Tonally, it's a mystery. Like you just hope that it'll land somehow. And
Yeah.
I feel like we went for something there, and it like works in that section of the film.
How long were you shooting for? Like, how long were you out there for?
We had 26 days of shooting.
Mm.
We had basically 4 weeks, and
Right.
3 weeks were in the forest, and then we had 1 week in Queens where we did like the airport and the apartment, and the street stuff in Queens. So it was pretty, you know, pretty tight, but I think that's also pretty much a standard timeline for indie film. Yeah.
Speaking of conversation, actually, there's this great one between Madeline's character and Dean's character in the forest, about free market and the sort of, you know, monopoly and the sort of inherent privilege that comes with a lot of that rhetoric. Why was it important for you to have that in there? I mean, I think it's a great scene, and I was curious to sort of hear your take on it, because to me it really almost sums up the entire sort of spirit of the film right in that one encounter.
Yeah, totally. Listen, I think it definitely toes the line of being didactic with the message of the film. It was important to me to approach that and try to find something that was just hopefully shy of being too didactic, because I personally come across like the viewpoints that Ray and Anna, the two characters in that scene, represent, I feel like are two major forces in our world today.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted in this film that critiques this system that both of these people are engaged in. I wanted to have those two forces interact at one point and really get into it, and not just have the viewer, you know, assume that they had talked that out or expect that those critiques had been leveled against Ray. But I wanted to have someone come right at him with the critique of his sort of like bootstrap American individualism. And so that's, you know, that was the hope there. And I think it's hopefully couched in a little bit of the tenderness that they then find too. You know, it's not just like a rando person critiquing him. I think their relationship does evolve and get more complex after that.
Yeah, totally. And there's this sense too of, in a weird way, I think we've been so conditioned by films, especially lately, actually, I think, you know, to sort of expect to be like sort of ideologically aligned to the main character.
Yeah.
And I think it's really sort of beautifully done in a way where, if it wasn't clear before, that scene sort of really sort of sort of unveils that, you know, maybe Ray isn't, you know what I mean? Like, he's a hero, but in a way, if you're not ideologically aligned with him, he's sort of the anti-hero in this story, to your perspective, whatever your perspective might be, right? Or for Madeline's character as well, right? I thought that was a nice little piece of,
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. Like we're so often just there's an assumption that we are aligned with the hero of our film politically, and I can tell when that assumption is made, and I actually don't know that I am aligned with this character,
Right.
and it immediately it throws me off the rails of watching a film, because I don't know what that assumption is, and if I'm meant to feel one way or not. So making it explicit in this world where we're all so cloistered and like we follow the people we follow, and we have the political ideologies we have, to like model how those ideologies can talk to each other, was something I wanted to explore.
I also really enjoy, I mean, the way that the sort of the critical charge of the film in a way is so multifaceted. in that, you could have just simply gone after the gig economy or the sharing economy, these stand-ins for, Uber, Airbnb, and so on and so forth. But there's also
Right.
this idea with Omnia, right, of ills of the times, but also the sort of element of sort of medical, profiteering that comes from that, which is then mirrored by, sorry, I forget the name there, but that at the end, the tea concoction and the
Yeah,
mixture,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so on. Can you speak a bit to that sort of theme of medical? Um,
Yeah, this again, this is a complex one. It's not either or. It's not that there's a big scam industry in healthcare, although there is. Like that's like half of it. There's a lot of I in the way I see the world, there's a degree of like couched in new age sort of self improvement. There's a degree of like supplement scamming and all this stuff that we all fall prey to, like when we're googling stuff at 2 a.m. Right?
yeah,
But
WebMD
like,
and yeah.
yeah, like maybe spirulina is like gonna unlock my brain. I don't know. Maybe, like, but like that is always rich to me to poke at. But then there's this other thing of like, well, wait a second. This like store that has all of these super great concoctions and products and everything at the end, this Half Moon Naturals or whatever. Maybe some of those things are actually really helpful. It's just that they cost so much that they're prohibitive to someone like Jamie and Ray. Like they would never buy this $300 tea, right? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So like there are like maybe there are things that are helpful, but again, the profit structure of these industries, especially in the U.S., are completely prohibitive to like working class people. So that you can both think it's a scam, but also be like, wait a second, this tea is helping my Omnia. It'd be great if we could like have that a little cheaper, because maybe like this is the thing I need to take. It's all natural.
Yeah.
It's an herbal supplement. Maybe it works. So yeah, but and also just like Omnia, which is a completely made up disease, which is sort of like a quasi chronic fatigue syndrome. I think there's also an element there of like there's a little it could be real, but it also could be a little psychosomatic, in that this is a world where a lot of people feel disillusioned and sort of aimless, and there isn't, this is like I just watched the Ken Loach film Sorry We Missed You, which just sort of goes at the gig economy, but in such a different, in a Ken Loach way, right? But there's such a despair of families that like feel like they have to take on more and more gig work and get deeper and deeper in holes, and they're basically running their own business, but getting penalized for missing. It gets into this like black hole of an atomized economy. So like, what would a young person feel like if they're coming out into the world, having to see that is the only way they could really make a living these days? So Omnia is a sort of maybe a catch-all for some of that affliction.
Oh, that's interesting. So did you conceive of it as a sort of almost a sort of a 21st century sort of depression, in that sense that, yeah, you're right. Like, sometimes you don't want to get out of bed, when you sort of get a sense of what, it's actually, especially these days, right? Like this idea of like, wow, is this what life is going to be? Is this struggle, what life is going to be like for the next, however long you're alive.
Yeah. Listen, I did, and I never wanted to say it is that, or it is a chronic fatigue syndrome, but I wanted it to dance around the line between, a real disease and a psychosomatic affliction of our times, which I think the line between those two things is importantly blurry right now because of a lot of factors.
Interesting. We might be getting into, maybe this warning is a bit late, but we might be getting into a bit of spoiler territory from here on out. So if you're watching this and haven't seen the film, please watch the film. It's available on VOD throughout the festival. There's I want to keep poking at this idea, because I think there's such a great little, I rewatched the film recently, and this is sort of really great detail where you're right, this ambiguity of and did the treatment work or did it not? And to me, like he sort of starts looking noticeably better, in the sort of final act of the film. But there's nothing really outwardly said about that. He's just, he has color again. You see him out of shadow. You see him sort of as an active protagonist, despite everybody sort of agreeing that it's a placebo, everybody agreeing that it's sort of. But then you sort of watch him, you're like, well, he looks a lot better. That was quite neat, neatly done, I think.
I mean that was that was a difficult tone, because that was a sort of like B plot of the film for sure, and how explicit to be about that for sure was a question all the way through editing. But the idea there is that like it might be a placebo, like maybe, but it also might be working. And it is working, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's like, I think that from my point of view, at least, like a lot of things we like turn to in this modern world might be a combination of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Where someone tells us like, this will really do this for you if you take it, or if you do this, if you like run every morning, or if you whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many nebulous afflictions today. Air pollution, things in your water, things are processed food, like
allergies.
You just don't know where things are flying at you from. And if you just like do the right combination of things, maybe you do come out of shadow and you have color in your face. So that was, it was a little bit of this nebulous, like kind of quantum in a way. It's like just it's unknowable.
Right. I want to discuss the ending of the film. I think there's a really nice sort of implication that especially in that sort of final scene of like this great, like this interesting implication that this monopoly might be far more reaching than we suspect. I also think I'm like both going into spoilers and trying not to spoil anything at the same time, but I think it's sort of the ending ties really nicely with the beginning, in that we get introduced to quantum with this sort of this parking ticket situation, and this idea that we are imposed these technologies that are in fact a little unknowable, or the structures of it are unknowable, and we accept them as sort of a fact, right? This is our first glimpse of it. It's a really banal situation, but it has this sort of very real life consequences. And then I think by the end, with the sort of robot being plugged into the thing at this house that we've barely sort of glimpsed throughout the film, sort of opens it up in a really interesting way for more speculation, right? Why? And I guess my question is like, why did you choose to open it up in such a way? I think it's an interesting note to end on.
Yeah, the thinking there was, Ray goes a few scenes earlier. He goes to try to charge his phone there. He goes to store his stuff in that garage, and the guy kind of comes out with his wife and says like, "Sorry, there's no charging here."
Yeah.
And it's sort of like the scene gets kind of just cut off there. It feels like a rude beat. You don't really understand. And then we're moving on. We're like then we're in the Omnia clinic. And I always wanted to complicate the collective action victory. There is this thing that happened that's great. Everyone comes together. They stop the automated robots, and then, but of course the problem is more far-reaching than that. And the note of, yes, the monopoly has tentacles, not just in the forest, but I guess the implication there, and we're going into full spoiler, full like this is what the ending of
big warning. Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say a little bit is that like a collective action amongst the workers in that situation is great, but it would really take the suburban home, the suburban like family to like join them in solidarity, and not to make a buck by charging the robot in their garage. And so like, that's not explicit, but hopefully just the entrance of the robot into like a domestic setting that we've seen before. And maybe you might remember that Ray was denied that a human was denied that he could charge his phone there. Would resonate a little bit.
And the intrusion of this robot into also sort of a user space, right? or at least a consumer space, right? Because
Yes, exactly.
this idea that the robot has a charging plan, I think
Right.
is quite interesting, because then the question of the ownership of the robot, or the relationship between the
Yes.
the garage owner and the robot, all these things sort of blow up into the
Yes.
open in a really nice way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The web's
Yeah.
it's sort of like the tentacles,
Yeah.
just as I said, extend a little further out at that last moment. Yeah.
Um, Maybe to sort of cap things off, I wanted to. I've read that you've been working for a long time on a project about the human brain. This is all I know, and I'd love to hear more about. Well, I guess this is the time to sort of plug your sort of upcoming stuff, and also I'd love to hear more about what you have lined up, and this project in particular.
Yeah, no, thank you for that opportunity. I have been working for 10 years now. I've been going once a year to this place in Switzerland that's called the Blue Brain Project, and they've been trying to simulate the human brain on supercomputers, basically build like a full-scale digital simulation, neuron by neuron. And this is like one of the most esteemed neuroscientists in the world, who gave a TED talk in 2009 saying he was going to do this. IBM got behind him, and it became like the biggest computational neuroscience project in the world. They got €1 billion. It became the Human Brain Project. It got even bigger. And so I kind of like, I studied neuroscience in college at Wesleyan University, and this was like all the rage when I got out of college, this project. And so I was just starting out in documentary, and I thought like, okay, cool. Like, what if I get in on the ground level here and I follow this? It's rare in like a field like neuroscience that you have like a deadline of a huge project like this. So what if I start following it now? I come back once a year.
Yeah.
So now here we are 10 years later, and minor spoiler alert, although no one will be spoiled by this. They didn't do it. They did not simulate the human brain. But I think the journey has been really revealing and telling in many different ways. And the film does offer now kind of a critical look at that field. Whereas I started out in a very like optimistic, positivist framework. I think now this film has turned on itself a little bit. So it's a documentary feature. We've just like finished up post this year, so we're trying to figure out now what to do with it in this virtual festival world, and hopefully it'll find its way out either end of this year or like early next year.
Yeah. Awesome.
And other than that, I'm busy writing another script, which is another sci-fi story, but it takes place mostly at an advertising agency. So I'm now turning like full on at that marketing angle.
Yeah.
And going at that. Yeah.
Awesome. And as for LAPSIS, what's next for the film? And if, hopefully people catch it during the festival, but if ever, sometime in the future you're on YouTube and you're watching this and you want to find this film, how is this coming along, and where can people find it potentially, if it's not too late?
It's we got a North American distribution through Film Movement. So if you're watching this between like now and November 2020, it's coming out probably like November, December 2020.
Nice.
In virtual theatrical and then like streaming platforms. And then internationally, it'll probably be, we have an international distributor who's going to help us get it out in different places, and hopefully it'll make it to you wherever you are watching this, sometime not too long after that.
Nice. And I wanted to mention too, if you're interested in Deep Time, it's streaming on Canopy, I believe.
It's on Vimeo on demand, and maybe Canopy. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Noah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully people find the film. And where can they find you if they have additional questions and so
on? They can find me on Twitter at Noah_Hutton, and also on Instagram at Noah Hutton. And I'd love to hear from anyone who has additional questions about the film.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much again.